Hey y'all, this is Kelly from What's the Obsession. I'm so glad you're watching. Please take a moment to hit like and subscribe. And this video contains 3 possibly memorable news clips and important news clips that aired before any suspect was arrested in the University of Idaho tragedy. Take a look. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment down below. Let me know if these news clips still contain questions that we have today or if these questions have been answered. I think today we have more questions, perhaps, than when these news clips first aired.
Less than an hour ago, we were here, and about 5 plainclothes investigators, we don't know if they're local, state, federal, they were inside, and we saw a lot of activity inside the home, and the home was lit up. So we were able to peek in some of the windows, but we saw those men inside the home in the 2 particular rooms where the murders took place. We did not see them leaving with any materials. I asked them a couple of times, why are they back? They did not answer me. They pulled away in 2 vehicles. One had a Washington state plate, the other had an Idaho plate, but that is all we can tell you. But we did see a lot of activity. This house was lit up for nearly an hour. They were inside. We don't know why. Nothing seemed to be removed. But as you know, Ashley, yesterday, a lot of the kids' belongings were removed by Moscow police to be returned to their families.
So I'm just watching these guys as they're walking by you. Were you asking them questions and were they effectively just ignoring you? Did they say hello? Did they say anything at all?
Not a peep. And I asked them specifically, why are you here tonight? Why are you here tonight? They did not acknowledge me. So certainly they were on a mission and they left without saying a word.
So, Nancy, I just want to point out the video that we're seeing right now. Let's blow this up full because, and let's replay that if we can too. This is the investigators walking out of the kitchen area into a hallway and then walking towards the living room. So there they are. It looks like they're emerging from the kitchen area, walking towards the front of the house. That grassy sign that's on the wall right there, that's the good vibes sign. There's actually 2 of those signs in the house. It's very confusing. There's a good vibes sign that was lit up in Kaylee Goncalves' room, and there's also that same grassy good vibes sign right down there that faces the front in the living room. So they're walking out of the kitchen area and walking towards the front of the house in the living room on the 2nd floor there. But that's the first time, Nancy, that we've actually been able to see them at work inside the house.
Right. And looking inside, we did see, you know, so many signs of a typical college life. You know, the items that we saw, red Solo cups. We saw a beer bottle. And there you see the window with the shades drawn, but you see the shadows of them working in that room. But yeah, they were inside. They seemed to be targeted in where they were going and what they were doing, and then they left without a word, even though I tried to get some comments out of them.
Yeah, it's curious about the kitchen because we're still trying to get confirmation as to whether, you know, the killer entered through that back kitchen sliding door. But, you know, listen, on a crime scene, they're going to look at every inch of that house. I am interested when you said that there was a Washington plate because the very first thing I thought of when I saw those guys is they don't look local necessarily. And I don't say that because they don't look like they're from Idaho. It just looks like they're moving in a particularly specific way.
Yeah.
And this late in the game, it just screams FBI to me, and maybe an FBI field office that's partially from Washington, maybe an FBI field office from the Idaho area. But did you ask if they were from FBI or what jurisdiction? And they just said, you know, nothing to see here?
Yeah, they would not. They would give me nothing. And I did call Moscow police. No answer, no response. So no explanation for any of this. But they were clearly inside on a mission.
I mean, 25 days of processing a crime scene, to me, it's something I haven't really seen unless it's, you know, a massive school shooting. That could take 25 days because there's just so many victims and so much territory and so many markings. This one is a really unusual complexity. I can only think it's because there's just so many samples in that house over the years and over the times that the kids have been there that they just I'm still shocked they only have 113 pieces of evidence. Nancy, thank you for getting that video and for being the eagle eye and spotting that. Really do appreciate it. Thanks so much.
And we should point out that a lot of the forensic evidence went to the state lab, and that is still being tested. You know, the blood is the blood mixed DNA, is the killer's DNA being tested. So there's a lot of information and evidence that's being tested now. And the Moscow Police Department kept stressing that, you know, we're not releasing a lot of information because we're protecting the integrity of the investigation, a term we keep hearing. So a lot of evidence still being processed and tested.
We honestly don't know if that killer cut himself and has mixed DNA in that blood. But you can't do that much activity and not shed a skin cell or a hair or a fiber off your sweater or your jacket or your hat. It's next to impossible. It's just how many other people have walked through that house through the ages, honestly.
A new wrinkle, former LAPD detective Mark Furman, yes, that Mark Furman from the O.J. Simpson trial, now lives in Idaho and is claiming that victim Kaylee Goncalves had a stalker.
I talked to one student, and I agree with this. It was twice removed from the person that said it, Kaylee, but Kaylee 2 months ago complained about a stalker.
Only when I met on my own.
This social media video shows all 5 women in the kitchen of the house they shared. We're learning that the killer, for some reason, bypassed the rooms where the 2 young survivors were sleeping.
Their story was they heard partying, they heard noise, but they just, as usual, said, there's partying going on, and they locked the door.
Another mystery, where was Kaylee's dog the night of the killings? Why didn't his barking wake everyone up? Autopsies on the 4 students found each had multiple stab wounds. Some had defensive wounds, showing they fought with the attacker. And there was no sexual assault. County Coroner Kathy Mabbutt is describing the murders as personal.
Were they found in beds?
Yes. There were multiple stab wounds. The fatal ones were to the chest area or the upper body area.
The father of Xana Kernodles says her wounds show she fought for her life.
Bruises and just, maybe hurt by the knife or whatever. She's a tough kid. Whatever she wanted to do, she could do it.
And we're learning that another victim, Madison Mogan, had planned to spend Thanksgiving with the family of her boyfriend, Jake Schreiger. His mother says his world has been turned upside down. There's growing anger over the progress of the investigation in Moscow, Idaho. Madison Mogan's aunt says the lack of information, statements from left field, and lack of outreach to the public to gain information has made this even more painful. On a typical weeknight, Main Street in this small college town is bustling, but not tonight. So many people are fearful over these 4 brutal homicides that many students have left campus and returned home, leaving Moscow, Idaho, a virtual ghost town. I found University of Idaho student Grace Martin, who lives across the street from the murder scene, as she joined the exodus of students heading home.
Living next to the crime scene, it feels very dark. Like there's like kind of a spirit of death around a bit.
This morning, police zeroing in on the movements of 2 of the University of Idaho victims, Xana Kernodles and Ethan Chapin, the night they were murdered, looking specifically at the hours between 9 p.m. and 1:45 a.m. when the couple was believed to be at Ethan's fraternity.
Why are you looking for more information specifically about where Xana and Ethan were in regards to his fraternity house?
That actually seems to be one of the larger areas that we don't have a lot of information in. And so being able to locate what they did that night, to maybe who they contacted, maybe any routes that they took home, that would be important for the investigation.
Xana and Ethan stabbed to death less than a block away at Xana's home, along with Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogan, who were found on the top floor. 2 roommates survived, along with Kaylee's dog, seen in this TikTok video. Authorities now say the dog was found inside the home, but in a separate room from the victims.
How important is the behavior of the dog in your investigation?
We don't believe that there was any appearance of forced entry into the home. And as well, at this time, we have not determined if the dog was inside the residence during the murders or not. What we do know is that the dog was inside when officers arrived. The dog did not appear to have any evidence on it.
Police also addressing information about the victim's manner of death after Kaylee's father said he learned his daughter's wounds were much more severe than her friends, fearing Kaylee was the target.
Please don't be my child that's the target.
Police telling ABC News they have not provided the family with that information.
Authorities also telling me they're not attempting to refute what the family is saying. Ultimately, they want to protect the integrity of this investigation. But as time marches on, Steve tells us he's been approached by a private investigator to help solve this case.